Hey there, young grasshoppers, ninjas, and ninjettes, boys and girls the world over, and welcome back to the Optimize Self Show, the show that's all about helping you rediscover your health, upgrade your fitness, and optimize your wellness, all while having fun kicking ass through lifestyle design. As always, I'm Justin Archer, aka the sensei of the Dojo and host of the Optimize Self Show here. And for those of you joining for the first time, basically this is very much a Q&A format type of show. You supply the questions, I supply the answers, or at least attempt to, and if it's something that's over my head, I will most certainly refer you to someone or something that can help you out. All right, but basically, all I ask of people watching the show is to be open-minded, and for a second, put down what I refer to as the single factor focused monocle and instead put on your multi-pronged diversified approach goggles. I know those little nicknames need a little bit of work. Obviously, it's a work in progress. But really what I'm getting at here is, like I said, we try to solve things through lifestyle design, not single factors like just exercise or just diet, although both of those things are very important. They're parts of the equation, not the equation in and of themselves. Really, the single most important truth that we subscribe to here on the show and inside the dojo is that the human body is a stimulus response organism that responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters the most, not your best intentions. All right. So with that said, let's get on with the show. Now, like I said, this is a Q&A type of show. So all the content, everything here on the show is dictated by what you, the viewer or listener, however you're taking this in. I know you're not reading it because it's a show. But by what you deem as most important. What do you want to know about? And really, the best way that you can tell me, hey, Justin, here's what I want to hear about on an upcoming episode of the Optimize Self Show is by taking the Optimize Self Test. And I'll show you what that looks like here. Let me share my screen. There we go. All right, so basically, if you go to optimizeself.ninja, you'll see the logo at the top, our little mantra, our little saying here, and you'll see the video player. Here you can watch past episodes of the Optimize Self show. We are, 34, now 35 episodes in. You'll see this big red orange button. Let me make sure you guys are seeing that too. Yep. It says click here to take the Optimize Self test, ask me a question, and uncover what's holding you back from being your best self. Go ahead, click that button, put your email in, click on take the test now, and an email with a link to the Optimize Self test will be sent to you. And basically, what the Optimize Self test is it's basically a self-assessment questionnaire that will help you kind of audit and self-reflect on your current lifestyle and how that is either helping or hindering you from achieving whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Getting out of chronic pain, losing weight, building muscle, gaining strength, curing something like diabetes or fibromyalgia, any of those things, all right? So that's the best way to do so, because also, as you self-reflect on your current lifestyle, there's places in there you can ask questions. And I always notice that when people take the Optimize Self test, the quality of the questions that they ask are significantly better than those that don't take the Optimize Self test. Also, by taking the test, you'll be supplying me with the information I need to give you more specific, basically better advice and suggestions of what to do next, what actions you should take. So basically, you're helping me help you. All right. So if you haven't already done so, make sure to take the Optimize Self test. Another way that you can send in questions, of course, I'm on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all those, and Instagram. You can find me there. But also, I just recently opened up the option of texting and voicemailing me questions. So you can text me your questions or leave me your question in the form of an audio message, aka voicemail, to 619-800-2459. Again, 619-800-2459. If you didn't get that, wrote that down, well, you can always rewind because it's a YouTube video, but I will be putting it on the lower third as soon as I take off the intro screen. All right, actually, let me take off I'll leave the share screen on. We'll be back to it in just a moment. But let's go over briefly today's topic. So first off, William makes a return guest appearance from episode 34, which was last episode. And this time we talk about how to loosen up in many different ways, but how to loosen up specifically your body through a little lifestyle design, or more accurately put, redesign. Ron wears his right shoulder as an earring. That's entertaining. As a result of repeatedly assuming the same positions and making the same motions day after day. And then we go over some optimized self truths that we all hold near and dear to our hearts. So all this and more coming up on today's show. But before we get to that, I just wanted to briefly pause and thank all the optimized self ninjas and ninjettes. By those, I mean people that I'm currently working with, either one-on-one sessions or those that keep me on as retainer, as well as the optimized self dojo members. And I'll show you here where you can learn more about those. Well, one, on the optimizeself.ninja homepage, if you scroll below where you click that big red orange button to take the Optimize Self test, you'll see everything that's included inside the Optimize Self dojo. But you can also go to, here we go. You can go to the store page and you can read more about the one-on-one sessions, which is exactly what it sounds like, a one-on-one session. They're usually 60, 90 minutes long. They're over video, they're recorded, all that stuff. So the one-on-one sessions, retainers, those are people that keep me, as well as those who live in their household. They keep me on retainer, basically limited access, except of course when I'm sleeping. And then the Optimize Self Dojo, I just share with you a little bit more about. But I always want to thank the people that work with me, because that's how the show is funded. So as well as thank them for allowing me to partake in one of, if not, I'm sure many would argue, the most important areas of their life. That's their health, their fitness, their overall wellness, and entrusting me to be a part of that and to help. So thank you guys. But a little bit more, let's go back to the dojo. All right, so let me go back here. And like I said, make sure you guys can still see this. On the page, if you go below the video player and below where you click to take the Optimize Self test, you'll see all the different modules, tools, guides, resources that are included in the dojo, as well as all the bonuses. Now, I'm not going to bore you by going through everything that's included. I'll let you do that if you choose to. But really quick, I think there is 3 important parts to point out that comes included with being a dojo member. And that is, number 1, the accountability and support group. This is built in via a private Facebook group that I've set up. And I think, accountability and support is key to success in anything, especially health, fitness, and wellness goals. There's been tons and tons of studies. Do a quick Google search, you'll find them, about how the more people that you are accountable to, as well as the more people that you support in a like-minded goal or endeavor, the more likely you are to succeed. Success rates go up. So that's huge. That's number 1. The second is every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do weekly live trainings, also known as Hangouts. And, so I do offer one-on-one sessions, and these sometimes are similar. I'll have 1 or more people join me online. We'll talk about whatever they feel is important, and then we as a collective group put our heads together and come up with a solution for those people who join me on video. So we're leveraging off of the collective knowledge and, more importantly, experience of the group to help one another. So yeah, when you compare those to a one-on-one session, that's a one-time thing for $300, which is what I charge for a one-time fee, to have ongoing weekly sessions that you can join me on video. Yes, you're sharing the spotlight. Instead of one-on-one, it's one on a couple or a few or several people. But you're getting ongoing access not only to me, but also the collective knowledge and experience of the group. So I think that is a huge, valuable part of being a member of the dojo. And last but certainly not least, there is the Optimized Self Arsenal. This is a collection of resources, guides, tutorials, and tools that make it easy, simple to implement what you learn in the resources, guides, tutorials, modules, all that stuff. Basically, it's a collection of the most important things that I've learned over over 13 plus years, spending tens of thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of hours in the Making Bodies Better world. Basically the same stuff that I share with my one-on-one clients and my retainer clients. So, and you can learn all about that over on optimizeself.ninja. But basically, you put those three parts together, and all together, you get access to $3,650 worth of value per year. And you can actually join for as little as a one-time payment of $26 today, which I think is huge. Now, this will eventually go definitely by the end of the year, going into next year, will turn into an annual, probably half yearly, quarterly, monthly type of membership, and will be, you know, every month, quarter, or year. Basically, you'll have, you know, it'll be a recurring payment type thing. But right now, you can get it for a one-time payment, and like I said, right now it's at $26, maybe $27 if someone just bought in as I'm recording this, because the price does go up with each membership. So I would definitely say get in now. At this price, it is a steal. Everybody in my business mastermind thinks I'm insane for offering this at such a low cost, but really my goal is, just so you know, full transparency, is just to get as many people in as possible, because with every person that joins, the collective knowledge and experience of the group goes up, and therefore the value of the group goes up. So that's why it's, if you're wondering what's the catch, why is it at such an insanely low price, that's why. So I don't know if that's a catch, just that's my reasoning why, so you know. So anyways, I just wanted to say again, thank you to all the ninjas and ninjettes that I work with, whether it be one-on-one and retainers or part of the dojo. Thank you for being awesome. And also a special shout out to our newest member of the dojo, Mark, who just joined. So Mark, if you're watching, hey, how's it going, man? Thank you for joining. Can't wait to see you inside, maybe in the next live training, the next hangout. It's because of Mark and other ninjas and ninjettes that this show exists, and that we're able to help people on the show. So with that, let's get on with the first topic of today. But first, I have to stop doing this screen share and take that off. Wave hi to everyone. I always say, for people watching the show for the first time, sorry I'm not better looking, but I did just give myself a haircut, well, with the help of my wife. So before it was everywhere, and now it's all trim and proper. Let me put up a lower third so you guys know where to find me. Give me 1 second. People who have seen this before are saying, you're always saying you're gonna make a custom lower third, and I know, and trust me, I've been wanting to, just kind of not the highest on the priority list, because, well, you'll see in just a moment, this works. It's not the best, you know, like fancy. Eventually I want to have like a little, wait, where is it over there? Like a little ninja over there, you know, do some branding, everything. But right now you got a little picture of me here, there we go. A little picture of me doing some slacklining on a chain. That's me, Justin Archer, aka Sensei, and you can find me at optimizeself.ninja. And the number right there, sorry it's so close, but one more space it would disappear, is 619-800-2459, where you could text or voicemail your questions to me as well. All right, so let me grab some water and we will get on to the first topic of the day. Let's see. Cheers. You can always drink with me. It's just water, trust me. Okay, so William, for those of you who saw last episode, or for those that don't, just to catch you up, he emailed in some posture photos for me to evaluate last episode number 34. And he wanted to know which posture condition type he is in. Well, it turns out he's a condition 1, which is short and tight muscles, kind of either a current athlete or kind of a post-athlete. Is usually there's that correlation between the two. So now he's back, and he did follow up with me. Thank you, William, by the way, assuming you're watching this, because I'll send you a link to this. And he took the Optimize Self test, which I recommended he do after I spoke with him in the last episode. So what I'll do, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Optimize Self test, I'll read you the questions that I posed to him and everyone else that takes the test, and I'll read you back his answers and then my response to those answers. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's see. When it comes to your health, fitness, and or wellness, what is the biggest problem or issue that you struggle with or have in the past? William says, always been pretty stiff and suffer suffered from lower back and neck pain mostly. To which I would respond to, well, remember that, and I know we touched upon this earlier, but I think it bears repeating. Remember that the lower back and the neck are simply different floors of the same building, meaning that your lower back and your neck are your spine. They're just different portions of your spine. And the spine in, what in anatomy we refer to as a segmented bone, and the segments are your vertebra with disc in between each, but it's the same bones. What happens on one affects the other. Basically, what happens on one floor of that building affects the other. And what I would recommend doing is start with what's closer to the foundation. And by foundation, I mean your hips and pelvis, because if you have let me get to a kneeling position here, right? You have your left and right pelvic bones. And then on the back, right, you have your sacrum. And that's what your spine sits on top of. Actually, technically, it goes below, and there's your tailbone, right? But your spine sits on top of your sacrum. So the tilt of either pelvis or both pelvic bones together dictate the curvature of your lower back, which then is going to dictate the curvature of your mid-back, your kind of mid-upper, upper back, all the way to your neck. So again, it's all the same building, it's just different floors, and they're all sitting on that foundation, your pelvic bones. All right. So you want to, I would say, treat the lower floors, your lower back area. And if you do that, more oftentimes than not, both the lower back symptoms and the neck symptoms will kind of take care of themselves, right? You're treating the lower back, but because you treat the position of that, your neck position changes and those symptoms are relieved or ideally eliminated. If they're not, then go ahead and also treat the neck symptoms as well, if necessary, of course. So I would definitely recommend, William, if you do so choose to, and I hope you do, to join me and the other dojo members inside the Optimize Self Dojo. Definitely check out the Optimize Self First Aid Kit. And in, basically what that is a collection of 20 exercise routines that are designed to relieve and eliminate 20 of the most common chronic pain symptoms, lower back and neck pain being 2 of them. There's other ones in there for like shoulder pain, knee pain, scoliosis, carpal tunnel syndrome, that kind of stuff. Basically 20 of the most common chronic pain symptoms, like I said, but lower back, neck pain are in there. So check that out, as well as Correcting Common Posture Deviation series. That's included in there as well. So those are inside, they're housed inside the Optimize Self Arsenal, which you gain access to through the Optimize Self Dojo. And if you have any questions, it should be pretty simple, straightforward where to find them. But if you have any questions, just get in contact with me. I'll point you in the right direction. All right, moving on. If you could ask me one question about your health, fitness, and or wellness that you would like for me to answer on an upcoming episode of the Optimal Self Show, what would it be? And William says, I do weight training. What type of movements best help support a good natural posture? So this is a good question. And I'm going to go off the word that William used here, movements, not exercises, but movements. And I definitely think movement is more important than exercise, even though most people go, well, is there a difference? Yes, you move when you exercise, but just general movements, assuming positions and transitioning from one position to the other. So what I would recommend for weight training, but as well as something I think good across the board, even if you're just trying to improve your general health, is practice getting up and down off the floor in various ways. So you can start from supine, which is completely flat on your back. If you go back here, just totally boom, flat on your back like so. You can practice going from a sitting position or a kneeling position like so. You can start from either of them and then get up to a upright position. And that may sound overly simplified, but here's a little trick that, I always had fun playing with people in person. Actually, I did do this probably sometime late last year with someone online, and you can do this if you know someone and want to just kind of mess with them, but also prove a point. You say, okay, get down, lay down completely flat on your back, and they get down on the ground. Okay, so now get back up. And they get back up. Okay, lay back down. Lay back down. Okay, now get back up. And usually it depends on the person. 2 or 3 times in, they're like, all right, what the heck is going on? You go, okay, just one more time, I promise. Okay, get back down. Okay, now get back up and go, but this time, get up to your other side and you see them pause, think about it, and either some people cannot do it or other people, they can do it, but you notice it's very foreign to them. They have to think about it. They're very awkward about it. And then it's like, do you think that has anything to do with your lower back pain or your neck pain or any of the other pain? Yeah, I think so. Because if you have that much of an asymmetry in functionality that you're going to favor one side so much so that if someone asks you 3 or 4 times to get up and down the ground, you're going to constantly go to the same side. Well, guess what? That's not just a choice. Actually, you didn't even make that choice. That was unconscious. That was habit. You just got up because they asked you to get up. You didn't think about going to one side or the other until they said, okay, the other side. Then you really had to think about it. So I always tell people, practice getting up and down in various ways to both sides. Ideally, eventually you can get up then evenly with both feet, no help of your hands. But get up and down off the ground until you can do it equally as easy on one side as you can the other side, basically trying to promote symmetry, because there's a lot of geometry involved in getting up and down off the ground. So that's thing number one I would recommend. And you can do that for, again, it sounds simple. Try getting up and down off the ground for like 5 minutes straight. And you don't have to go fast. You don't have to make it like ballistic. Just practice up getting up and down different ways, left and right, evenly, all that. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is, I would say, practice spending time in a butt to heels squat position, right? And try not to give you too much of a kind of a crotch shot here, so excuse me, but basically just sit, with your butt hovering over the ground and your knees kind of pushed out to the sides, and just spend some time here, all right? And see if you can get 10 minutes total, right? If you can't get 10 minutes total, then break it up. Maybe 3 minutes now, and then rest a little bit, 3 minutes later, rest a little bit, 3 minutes, and then maybe 1 minute before going to bed. But practice time in here, because a lot of people are missing the range of motion in their ankles, their knees, and or their hips to be able to do so. And you also want to try to keep your body, your torso upright. So a lot of times people will do this, and they're like on their toes, and then they're like this type of thing. But you want to really try to keep your chest. Imagine if you're like Tony Stark, your sternum upright. You can even work on the computer like this, but practice that. And especially for weight training, getting into that deep squat, that'll help out a lot. But even if you're not into weight training, if you're someone watching this and I don't really do weight training, that's an important position to be able to get into for something as simple as having healthy bowel movements. There's even a product that's made to help with that called the Squatty Potty. I'll try to remember to link that below. It's pretty cool, but you can do that just by putting your feet on a trash can or the sides of your toilet and squatting like I just showed you. So that would be the second, I would say, most important thing to do. Get up and down off the ground, number one, spending at least 10 minutes a day, either all at once or broken up in the butt to heels squats, also known as the toddler squat, or I've also heard it referred to as the paleo squat. So call it whatever you want, doesn't really matter, but do that. All right. All right, one more. If you can ask me another question about health, fitness, wellness, whatever, what would it be? I need some water. It's dry up today. And I wanted to build up suspense there for what William had to say. So William says, yoga and weight training weekly, hoping to become more strong, flexible, and better posture. Would this be a good combination? Yes, absolutely. I think this is a good combination. Just be sure to bring an aligned and functional body to both to prevent injury and increase your results. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, or not train of thought, my place. So what I mean by that, make sure, because I've seen William's posture, and if you go back to episode 34, I believe it was the second question. You can look at the timestamps over on YouTube in the description, and then it's hyperlinked right to that spot, and you'll see his posture. And basically, if you bring that condition one posture, that body type, that condition to yoga, you're already it's like stepping into the boxing ring with one arm tied behind your back. You're at a disadvantage, meaning you're bringing a not fully functional and misaligned body into yoga. You're not going to do as well as if you brought a better aligned body to yoga. Same thing with weight training. You're not going to be able to squat as low or symmetrically. Your geometry and the positions that you can assume, therefore the leverage you have on the weights, not just muscular strength, contractile strength, but actual angles you can get in your ankles, your knees, your hips, each degree between the vertebra, especially if you have your neck and lower back issues. I know there is compromised range of motion in your spine. You're not going to be able to perform as well at either of those things, weight training or yoga. So definitely make sure, as I say, it's kind of the catchy phrase, straighten, then strengthen, because taken from someone who did the opposite way, and in my defense, I didn't know about postural alignment and the importance of the role that it played. And I did bodybuilding before I knew about any of this, and I sustained a rotator cuff tear in my left shoulder, a meniscus tear and MCL tear in my left knee, had lower back pain, sciatica. I don't recommend any of it. None of that was fun. So please learn from my mistakes. And just remember that as beneficial as yoga and weight training can be, their benefits and the results you get from them are always going to be inhibited by the sum quality, or I guess you can refer to as state, of the 6 other foundations of health, those being breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, and movement, not to mention other things like your environment and mindset, both of which are forever influencing your pain, posture, and performance, including things like flexibility, range of motion, and strength. Because like I mentioned at the top of the show, at the beginning, and something I repeat regularly because I think it is something that needs to be repeated, and hopefully to William and anybody else watching, if you take one thing away from the show today, it is that the human body is a stimulus response organism and responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters the most, not your best intentions, which means no quantity or quality of exercise can compensate for a suboptimal lifestyle, no matter how much we want it to. You can't eat. I'm not saying, William, you do this, but you can't eat, pizza and Twinkies and just run it off or weight train it off or yoga it off. It unfortunately doesn't work that way. Trust me, sometimes I wish it did. So I always tell people, please don't kill the messenger. I'm simply here to learn how the human body functions and operates, and then communicate it to other people so that you can benefit from that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. All right. So now we're getting into some questions that are more pointed towards, what are the current quality or state of William's foundations of health: breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, and exercise, as well as environment and mindset. So we'll get into those now. Let's see, how often do you practice any forms of meditation and or conscious, ideally diaphragmatic breathing? William says never. And that's actually a real shame, but it's honestly not to pick on William, something that a lot of people negate. They look over, they gloss over, they don't even know that it really matters. They're like, I'm breathing, so it's like, I'm not dead, I must be doing it right. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I've never, nobody has ever come to me, especially suffering from chronic pain symptoms like lower back and neck pain, who are breathing correctly. And by correctly, I mean breathing with your primary breathing muscle, which is your diaphragm. So I'll show you what that'll look like real quick. Let me just back up here. And so if you put your hands on your hips, your pelvic bones, kind of like Superman or Wonder Woman, right here on the bones, just above there, it's a little soft, right? On some of us, it's softer than others. But if you put your hands there, when you inhale, they should expand outwards. I'll show you. See how it just pushed my hands outwards like that? And then when I exhale, it goes back towards the middle. Much like if you were blowing up a balloon for a kid's birthday party, right? You blow into it, and the balloon expands in your hand. And then if you were to let the air out, your hands would come back towards each other because the balloon would shrink because there's no more air in it. That's how you should be breathing. But for many reasons, that goes beyond the scope of today's episode, that primary way of breathing gets shut down, and people start to use compensate by using more their secondary or auxiliary breathing muscles, which are in their chest, shoulders, neck and trap. And if you're wondering already, William, maybe that could be why my neck is hurting too in my lower back. Yes to both of those, because by not breathing with your diaphragm here, which that diaphragm ties into your lower back as well as your hip flexors and your pelvic floor, you're losing out on a lot of blood and oxygen flow to that area, as well as a kind of an inside out massage. And at first you might go, well, how much could it really matter to that area? Well, I'll tell you, the average human takes roughly 22 to 30,000 breaths per day. So that's 22 to 30,000 inhale and exhalations that you're missing out, expansion and contraction of the musculature in the lower back. So not only does that suck for the lower back because it's missing out on that, but then you factor into, well, I have to breathe, and so it has to compensate from somewhere. Where does that go? Up here, right? People are now shoulder, neck, and chest breathing. Well, what's that mean to someone like William who has neck pain? Well, that's 22 to 30,000 tiny shoulder shrugs he or a lot of people in the same or similar boat are doing to compensate for basically a compromised breathing mechanics. It's not happening down here, it's happening up here. And then you go, my neck is sore, especially maybe my traps and everything. Yeah, it's because you're breathing up here. No wonder. Anybody would be tight in the neck and trap and shoulder area if they did 22 to 30,000 shoulder shrugs with the weight of their arms hanging on there, but it's subconscious. You're not doing it on purpose, obviously. So that's why proper breathing mechanics is so huge. And actually, inside the Optimized Self Dojo, I have a whole module on how to go about optimizing your breathing. And I actually count it as the most important foundation of your health, because let's be honest, without breathing, really nothing else matters. You're dead. But not just as black and white as that. Breathing is what you do the most. Out of breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, exercise, all that, breathing is what you're doing all the time, even when you're unconscious, when you're sleeping. So here's what I'd recommend to do for William and anyone else watching, is start practicing 15 minutes of conscious diaphragmatic breathing total per day. And again, this doesn't have to be 15 minutes by itself. It doesn't have to, it's 15 minutes total. So it could be 5 minutes morning, 5 minutes midday, 5 minutes afternoon. You could break it up into 15 1-minute sets, that's fine. And the way that you want to focus on breathing, you can do this standing, you can do it sitting, you can do it static back, which is on your back with your legs up at a 90-degree angle. That's a really common position that people practice in because it's very comfortable. But keep your mouth closed, breathe in and out through your nose. This will help trigger your diaphragm. And yeah, that's basically it. Think about breathing east to west. So even if you need be, you can put your hands there. And eventually you won't need to put your hands there. But if at first, by all means, go ahead and do that. And yeah, if you can just start to retrain your body, and this isn't something a lot of people think like I have to focus this on all day. No, spend 50 minutes total per day, laser focused on it, almost like meditation. Technically, it is a form of meditation. Being present in the moment and focusing on your breathing, that will start to reprogram your central nervous system on how you should be breathing. And then one day, usually anywhere from a few days to 2 weeks in, people start noticing, they're in a conversation and they become aware, oh my gosh, I'm breathing like that automatically. So you're basically taking the 15 minutes per day to make a healthy choice, but then eventually turn that into a healthy habit. And habits, as we all know, are unconscious decisions. They just happen. You don't have to waste bandwidth making that choice. Maybe initially, yes, for the first 15 minutes for the first few days to maybe a week or two. But then once you get that under control, your central nervous system should take over. And again, it's just habit. And by doing that, you will relieve your lower back and neck pain by as much as 30%. Now, that's a significant impact. I don't like to stop at 30%, but I think that's pretty darn good just to start. So, all right, we covered breathing. Let's move on to hydration. How much do you weigh? 196 pounds, William says. How many ounces of water do you drink per day? Some days more than others, on average 4 pints, which according to Google, when I made the, what are 4 pints in ounces? 64 ounces. So, William, what I would suggest is you should be drinking a bare minimum of 98 ounces of pure water per day, which comes out to be half your body weight, 8 ounces of water. And that's, let me emphasize this, bare minimum. You should definitely be drinking more on the days that you exercise, whether it's yoga, weight train, as well as when you consume any caffeinated or alcoholic beverages. So if you have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, make sure to have 2 cups of water or 2 glasses of water, basically a 2-to-1 ratio of water to any caffeinated or alcoholic beverages. And hydration is very, very important because it's vital to the length, tension, function, and adaptability of the muscles and myofascia, as well as the other connective tissues in your lower back, your neck, and pretty much everywhere in your body. And the way it would relate to, some of the activities that you're partaking, like yoga and weight training, if you're dehydrated when you go to yoga or weight train, then you're leaving a lot of flexibility and range of motion for yoga and a lot of strength when it comes to weight training on the table. You will never be as flexible or have as much range of motion or be as strong as you could if you were properly hydrated. This is huge. And even if you took the same you, but the only difference is you went to the yoga studio, and one of you, was hydrated the way you are now in this answer, and the other you was properly hydrated and has been for weeks. That hydrated you is going to be able to get into positions and do certain stances and things in yoga that dehydrated you can't. And if you went to, squat at the gym, hydrated you is going to be able to lift significantly more on that day than dehydrated you. So hydration is very, very important in terms of pain, posture, performance, and just overall well-being. And then the follow-up question of this is, how much and what kind of salt do you consume daily? William says some days more than other, healthy, some days other fast foods, so it could be a fair amount. Now, I think William, like a lot of people, take my question of salt as a bad thing, and it's quite the contrary. Most people I find are not having enough salt, or they're having poor qualities of salt, or they're fixating on sodium, not salt. There is a difference. I actually suggest people using pink Himalayan salt if that is a choice. And in most places of the world, it is. My wife and I travel internationally quite frequently, and we usually don't have a problem finding it anywhere. But if you can't, also Celtic sea salt is good. And using that on your food or even in your water to taste. And what this will do is ensure that you utilize the water that you consume. And I don't just mean get you bloated. It'll actually act as a taxi or kind of shuttle to your extremities, to your brain, to your heart, everywhere that needs water. It's going to make sure that the water gets there so that you can benefit from it. So usually when I work one-on-one with people, we'll go a little bit deeper into precisely how much salt. Again, I don't have the specifics with William, but yeah, start to add it, especially pink Himalayan salt, to your meals, to your water if need be. When I take a week-long break off of caffeine, which I do every 2 months. I go 2 months on, 1 week off to give my adrenals a chance to kind of rest and regenerate. Instead of having coffee in the morning, I do about 12-ounce mug of water with about a teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt stirred in there, and I drink it over 20, 30 minutes. And at that dilution, it's not too strong, not too salty, and it wakes me up. I feel great. So yeah, people, don't be scared of salt. All right. Moving on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how would you rate the quality of your sleep? And William says 4. So ideally, we want to get that above 5. We want to get it closer. I would say I usually shoot for 8 to 10. The optimized self system and what we're all about here. We all know that perfection cannot be achieved. That doesn't mean we don't like to chase it, but we're all just more about resilience and making continual progress here. So, I always tell people shoot for an 8 to a 10. 10, of course, being perfect or ideal. But what can we do to get that sleep quality from a 4 closer to somewhere between an 8 and a 10? Well, first of all, why is sleep important? Well, sleep deprivation, chronic or acute, will for William, since we're talking about things like yoga and strength training, sleep deprivation, like I said, chronic or acute, will sap your flexibility and strength and contribute to things like poor posture throughout the day, thus exacerbating your symptoms like lower back and neck pain. So here's a couple things that I would suggest you do to improve the quality of sleep. Number one, turn off all screens at least an hour before bed. This is important because the blue and white light emitted from screens, television screens, computer screens, mobile devices, that messes with your circadian rhythm. I believe melatonin, dopamine, and some other hormone or something that's secreted. I gotta check myself on that. But basically, I do know that it does mess with your circadian rhythms, and it will lower your ability to get quality sleep. So what do you do? Turn off all the screens, like I said, an hour before bed, 2 preferably, but definitely 1 hour. If you have to have a screen on, use something like Flux, which is basically a app that runs in the background, I describe it as a sunset for your monitor. It basically, as the sun goes down wherever you are in the world, it will filter out that blue and white light. So mostly on the red and orange kind of comes through, and only for the first day you use it does the screen look a little off or weird, and then you quickly get used to it. And then actually, if you take it off, like you shut down the app from running, it looks super, super bright, and you're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe how I used to use my computer screen. This is blinding. It hurts my eyes. So you get used to it. It's a lot easier on your eyes. So check that out. I don't think they have it for iOS, but you could just dim your phone down to as low as possible at night. Again, just try to stay away from it. It's also good just for social life. If you're in a relationship with anybody, trust me, they appreciate it. You not constantly going like this and actually going, oh, tell me about your day, and listening to them. The Optimize Self Show, all about relationships, right? Which is an important part of health, fitness, and wellness. Happy wife, happy life, after all. But I digress. Also, try to consistently go to bed at the same time 7 days per week. So I know a lot of people will go to bed earlier during the week and then stay up on the weekends. And although that sounds fun, you definitely pay a kind of a tax on it in terms of the energy you have the next days and kind of playing catch up for it. So try to go to bed at the same time, give or take, 10, 15 minutes. And if you go to bed at the same time consistently, you won't need an alarm. You'll wake up at the same time, give or take, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Also, make sure your room is as dark as possible. Try to just black it out, almost like as if you were sleeping in a cave. So, especially if you're in a city, use blackout shades, use a eye mask. If you have any lights in your room, try to get rid of them. If it's an alarm or something that emits light, turn it away from you, or even better yet, they make little stickers you can put on them. So although it's working, and if you need an alarm for whatever reason, that's fine. I mean, I think most people now just use their phone as alarm, and it's black. There's no light on it until the alarm goes off, and then it, of course, alerts you. Also, try to cool the room or your bed to about 66 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This is on average what's optimal for most people. And you can do this, probably the old-fashioned way, but still works as a thermostat. Change the temperature of your bedroom. They also make, I believe, something called Chili Pad, which is a kind of a mattress topper that you can change the temperature on either side, so you can sleep cooler or warmer. You can look into that. Or a really, really simple way is simply you can be fully covered, but just have one bare foot outside of the covers, and that'll drop your overall body temperature. Not to the point where it's uncomfortable, like you're freezing, but enough so that it'll improve the quality of your sleep. And last, but certainly not least, is I would suggest leaving 5 of those minutes that we talked about before of the conscious diaphragmatic breathing. Do that right before going to bed. You can lay down in static back position, which essentially is, I'll include a link to a video tutorial, but basically it's where you're lying on your back with your legs up at a 90-degree angle, resting on a chair ottoman. Your arms can be out at your sides, roughly 90 to 45 degrees, and you're just lying here, relaxed. And what you'll do is breathe in and out through your nose at that. Actually, this we didn't talk about, so this is the new part added in. Try to breathe at a 1 to 2 inhale to exhale ratio. So for example, 3 seconds in and then 6 seconds out. Obviously that wasn't 6 seconds, but we'll pretend it was. And what that'll do is help calm your central nervous system for when you go to bed. So those are a number of things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep. Let me get some water and we'll continue on. The next question is, how many hours on average do you sleep per night? William says 7. Now 7 is pretty good. Adults on average require 6 to 9 hours per night, but it's important to note that 6 hours of quality sleep is better than 9 hours of poor quality sleep. So quality in terms of sleep always trumps quantity. So what I would suggest, William, is until you can get the quality of your sleep more towards an 8, 10 being ideal, but let's even set the number that we were trying to reach at an 8. Until you do that, I would suggest trying to get in some 20 to 30 minute naps until you're able to, like I said, get the quality of sleep up. Once you do that, then I don't think you'll need the sleep because you'll be getting much more out of that single, traditional kind of nighttime sleep that you're doing 7 hours. Let's see, what position do you sleep in? William says sides. What I would recommend is try to bring a better aligned body to bed with you. And the reason this is important, sleeping in general on your sides, why I try to get people from on their sides to on their backs, is because sleeping on your sides inevitably leads to asymmetries because it's an asymmetrical position, right? You're laying in one position, one hip dips down, one hip elevates, the spine kind of has a lateral offset, also known as scoliosis. You have one shoulder rolled in. I mean, you can do some things with pillows, but it's like a pillow between the knees, a pillow, 2 under the head, 1 over here, and it turns into a whole thing. Is it impossible to sleep healthy on your sides? No, I think with the right mattress, the right pillows and bolstering, it is possible, but it is quite an ordeal. Instead, what I would recommend people to try to adopt is sleeping on their back with either 0 or 1 pillow under their head. Ideally, you don't want your neck to hyperextend. So if you need to start with more pillows, that's fine. But little by little, try to take the pillows out. So that way, because some people will sleep with 3 or 4 pillows under their head, and that whole night, 7 hours per night, they're practicing, unconsciously, of course, but practicing their head being in forward position. Well, obviously that is going to, again, it's what you do the majority of the time that matters the most, not your best intentions. Well, 7 hours with your head pushed forward is definitely going to add up to hurting your neck. So go for 0 to 1 pillows under the head, and then place 1 to 2 pillows under your knees and lower legs. That will help place your pelvis and lower back place your pelvis in a more neutral position, thus unloading the strain from your lower back, letting those lumbar erectors, those are those low back muscles that run parallel to the spine up and down. It'll allow those to relax. It's quite comfortable. So I would suggest trying to sleep like that. The other thing you can do to also make that comfortable, because I understand changing how you sleep, it's a habit change, so it's easier said than done. I totally get that. But immediately prior to going to bed, so have your teeth brushed, everything ready, spend 5 minutes in the static back position, which I showed you, and I'll include a link to the video tutorial in the show notes under mentioned links. But spend 5 minutes there practicing that conscious diaphragmatic breathing, that 1 to 2 inhale to exhale ratio, and that will help you bring a better aligned body to bed. And I know that may sound kind of funny because it's basically, most people wouldn't scoff at, oh, I'm going to go play soccer. I'm going to warm up, whether it's stretching, some mobilizing techniques, just something to warm up, do some kicks or something, because it's soccer, it's a sport, it's an activity. But a lot of people don't think about warming up to go to bed. But think about it. You're putting your body in a position, whether it's on your back, side, stomach, whatever, in a position for 7 hours. Obviously, that's going to have an effect on how you wake up, the position you wake up, how you feel when you wake up, et cetera, your overall life. So you want to make sure to warm up before bed. And by warm up, all I mean is try to bring a more symmetrical, aligned body to bed. And that will feel a lot better going to sleep, while you're sleeping, and you'll wake up feeling better. All right. I think that covers it for sleeping. I do go deeper and wider into sleep in the Optimizing Your Sleep module, which is found inside the Optimize Self arsenal, which is housed inside the Optimize Self Dojo. Let's see. Do you eat any of the following foods on a daily or weekly basis? And basically in the Optimize Self test, I list 7 of the most common foods that people have food intolerances and or sensitivities to. And these should not be confused with allergies, which most people know they have, like if peanuts even touch their lip or something and their throat swells up, that's an allergy. Intolerances and sensitivities are lower level. They're not as acute. They're chronic, and they cause low levels of systemic inflammation in the body, which can manifest themselves in many different ways. So it could be digestive issues, like most people know about gluten and celiac disease, but also it could be a drop in cognitive performance. It could be skin issues, dermatologist type things. It can have to do with achy joints, sore and stiff muscles, lower energy. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you put it on a page, you just scroll and scroll and scroll all the symptoms that are related to these food intolerances. So, I ask, out of these foods, does William eat any? And the ones he said is dairy, eggs, and then he added one chicken, which I don't think I made that a choice, but somehow he fit that one in. So let me address the chicken first, and we'll get to the other two. Chicken, I think, is fine if it's pasture raised, which is different than pasteurized. So if it's pasture raised from a reliable, high quality source, and again, it's not pasteurized, but pasture raised, then it's fine. Now, granted, this can be hard to accomplish depending on where you live, but if you know the farmer and you know that, hey, these are chickens that, like I said, are pasture raised, and you know how they were cared for, how they were killed and everything and stuff, and it's high quality meat, then yeah, and assuming you don't have any food intolerance, then I think chicken is great. Again, it's just unfortunately getting harder and harder to find. At least in America, I know some other states it is a cleaner meat, but you just got to be careful. It's getting harder and harder to find good, high quality sources of chicken. On a macronutrient side, protein, carbs, fats, all that stuff, I think it's a great food. Unfortunately, it's just what they're fed, because a lot of people say you are what you eat. Let's take it one step further. You are what you eat, and what's put into the chickens, what the chickens are fed, what the chickens are injected with, and all that stuff. Unfortunately, it's just not good for us. So in that case, I would suggest steering clear of them. So that's on chicken. Now, as far as the dairy and the eggs, what I would suggest is try and avoid dairy, eggs, as well as the other foods, those being gluten, soy, peanuts, corn, and sugar/artificial sweeteners, as much as possible, as these foods have been found to cause, like I said, systemic inflammation through your entire body and negatively affect things like pain, posture, and performance, at least in most people anyways. Now, to be certain, because I hate to make blanket statements, especially when it comes to nutrition and diet, I don't like to say, hey, eggs are good for everybody, or eggs are not good for anybody, or carbs are good, carbs are evil, all this stuff. No. What I teach in the Optimizing Your Nutrition module is how to optimize your nutrition, by which I mean create a diet, because a diet is neither good nor bad. A diet is simply, what do you eat routinely eat, habitually eat. So a diet could be Twinkies and pizza, which obviously isn't healthy, but it is a diet. You have things like the vegan diet, the Atkins diet, and paleo diet, and yada yada. The list goes on and on. There's so many of them. What I recommend is using an elimination diet, not as a lifestyle. An elimination diet is not something that you eat forever. An elimination diet is a process that you use as a diagnostic tool to figure out what foods are harming you that you have intolerances and or sensitivities to. So you can eliminate those foods so they're not poisoning you, they're not toxic to your body. And you also find out what foods are good for you, what that are replenishing you, and you consume more of those. That way you create a diet that is unique to your own unique biochemistry, right? Because what may be healthy for me isn't necessarily healthy for you, and vice versa, because we have different genetics due to things like epigenetics, what our parents, grandparents eat, where we're from in the world, et cetera, other environmental factors. So it's important to take all those things into consideration. But the elimination diet, I think, is the first step to figuring that out, because I just hate to see people who are striving in something like yoga and weight training, they put in the time, they put in the effort, but they don't get the results they want because they're eating a food, and it may be something that they were told is healthy for them, like like dairy and eggs or chicken, and come to find out that those things aren't healthy for them. And again, by healthy, I'm not talking about macronutrients. I'm not talking about protein, carbs, calories, which although do play a part, they're not nearly as important as most people make them out to be. That's a whole nother show, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure at some point. But yeah, and people always will say, "Oh, I'm fine on that food," and I push a little bit. I say, "Well, how do you know? What evidence do you have to support that belief?" Because I'll tell you my standpoint, and this goes for myself. I mean, I hold myself accountable the same way that I hold others. Is until you've gone through an elimination diet, you've done something like a Coca Pulse test, you've done something like at least even a blood test, even though those have false positives, something to say that, hey, my body at this current time is fine with this food. Out of those 7 foods, the dairy, eggs, gluten, soy, peanuts, corn, sugar, artificial sweetener, that type of stuff, I'm just going to assume that you do have tolerance and sensitivity to them based on sheer statistics. Whereas if someone says, well, how do you know you're, fine with these foods and not fine with these other foods? It's because I've gone through several elimination diets. I usually do 2 of them a year because food intolerances and sensitivities can change. Especially when I'm doing that as a second opinion, I use multiple apps and variations of the Coca Pulse test as kind of a second opinion. So again, go a lot deeper and wider into this inside the Optimizing Nutrition module, which William, if you do decide to join the dojo, I definitely recommend you check out. Let's move on from there. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being stressed out, how would you rate your stress level? William says 4. Sorry, I copy and paste some stuff from a past show, and I was like, those responses or those show notes were not for William, so that's why they struck me as odd. So here's a couple things you can do to get your that 4 closer to that 8 to 10 range, which is what we're shooting for, as well as anyone else who's watching who deals with a great amount of stress in their lives, because we're always going to have stress, but it's important to note that there's 2 types of stress. You have distress, which is the bad stress, which you want to eliminate and get rid of as much of that as possible. And there's eustress, which is good stress, which can be exercise, sex, that kind of good stuff, which we want. But also, we can't fully eliminate distress, the bad stress, but you do have control over how you react to that stress. That you can actually train your body and your mind how to react to. So first off is try to eliminate the things and people who are distracting you from achieving your goals, becoming your best self, getting out of lower back and neck pain, or trying to be better at yoga or weight training. And, again, whatever's holding you back, whatever's in your way, try to eliminate those things and those people. Another quick tip is focus on your breathing to control your stress. Your breathing is the quickest, simplest, and most effective way to control your stress levels. And we already touched upon this earlier, that conscious diaphragmatic breathing, that 1 to 2 inhale to exhale ratio, will really help calm your central nervous system. And just so you know, this isn't something that I just believe or think, and this isn't, I'm definitely not someone who subscribes to the hoo-ha and breathing the good energy in and out, although some people that works for them, God bless you. Um, no, this is something I have backed up by factual numbers and science. And I've tested time and time again where I can purposely get mad at something, or I can do some high intensity exercise and crank up my heart rate. And then as little as 3 breaths significantly reduce it. And that's great for performance things like yoga and weight training, but it's also good in just day-to-day life, because you think about how often does a web page not load as fast as you want it to, or someone cuts you off and you want to give them the finger and you get so mad, and sometimes that gets prolonged. And how much time how much of your time and how much of your energy do you give towards something like that being mad? And you come to find out that simply by your breathing and training, actually what's known as heart rate variability training, you could actually control that flight or fight response. You could control how your mind and how your body reacts to stress. And at one point, I didn't know that was even possible. I didn't know that was a thing. And when you learn that you do have that kind of granular control over your body, over your internals, it's amazing. It is just eye-opening and just very like, wow, I did not know I have this much control over my body, but it's pretty amazing when you learn how to do so. And I go, again, deeper and wider this in the optimizing your stress module. So if that kind of thing interests you, definitely check out that as well. Okay, now we're getting into some movement exercise stuff. How many minutes do you spend standing/walking per day? William says 10 minutes. Truth be told, that is very, very little. I would definitely try to recommend getting that up to, definitely an hour, if not more. But I know a lot of times this is something, not to pick on William, a lot of people struggle with. So here's a couple things you can do to try to, stand and walk more. You can try working from a standing desk or even like a treadmill desk, if that's an option, if you have the space and if you have the money for one of those. I would say the money is needed for the treadmill desk. A standing desk, it doesn't cost anything. A lot of people have told me, like, I can't do a standing desk. Now, right now I'm working from on the floor, if you couldn't tell already, and I'm, fidgeting because I'm moving from position to position. That's also good. We'll get into that a little bit later. But standing desks, I always laugh when people say, I can't afford a standing desk, Justin, and I go, all right, do you have a table or a counter? Yes. Do you have a chair or some books on it? Yeah. I said, okay, take some shit, stack it on other shit, put your computer on top, you got a standing desk. It really is as simple as that. You don't have to overly complicate it, but that it's always a kind of a funny excuse that people throw out there. Also, you can make and take calls and have meetings while walking. So as long as you don't need a screen in front of you, like you're referencing numbers or something, and you can do this for business, but you can also do it for family, like, hey, mom's calling, love to talk to her, but I know we're going to be on the phone for an hour. Don't sit down and take that call. Walk around, we have all this wireless and cellular technology and stuff. That's what it's there for. So you can spend that time, again, whether it's personal calls or business calls, also standing and walking more. Also, I always invite people to join me every once in a while in, what I call kind of a furniture Sabbath, or just taking a break from sitting down and using furniture the way that it was intended. So, and William, I'll invite you to do the same. Try to go a day without using a chair, couch, ottoman, stool, or anything like it was intended, by which I mean don't sit on it. I'm using an ottoman right now to put my laptop on because I'm working from the ground. So technically you can say I'm using an ottoman, but I'm not sitting on the ottoman. I'm sitting on the ground. Now, that brings us to the next question and about sitting. And the next question is, how many hours do you spend sitting/stagnant per day? And William says 6 hours. So first of all, let's point out the fact, and I hope William doesn't take this as I'm picking on him, because he's in a large boat with many other people who share similar answers. But let me point out that William is spending 36 times the amount of time sitting and being stagnant than he is, sitting and stagnant than he is standing and walking. Obviously, that those are not in his favor. And it's important to pause and repeat the probably most important truth that we hold near and dear to our hearts here in the Optimize Self Show and in the dojo, and that is the human body is a stimulus response organism that responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So when I say without prejudice, I mean it's going to respond to the 10 minutes William is spending standing and walking. Okay, great, moving around, getting the femurs to move in the hip sockets, the pelvis is moving, all that great stuff is happening. Awesome. But then it's also going to respond to the 6 hours spent sitting and in a stagnant position. Uh, it doesn't say just take in the good and just take, not respond to the bad. It's going to respond to everything. So that being said, it's what you do the majority of the time that matters the most, not your best intentions. So what does that mean to William? Well, that means that your muscles will always be short and tight, what we went over last episode of condition 1, unless the time you spend standing and walking and the time you spend sitting and being stagnant gets closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. It doesn't have, in a perfect world, you would be standing and walking more than you are sitting. I know often as a first ask, that's kind of difficult for most people. Like, oh my gosh, but just get it closer. It doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 ratio perfect, but get that ratio closer. So maybe if you can get your sitting time, maybe you can go 3 hours standing and walking per day and 3 hours sitting and stagnant per day. That would be an improvement. Now, what about sitting? A question I often get asked is, well, what position should I be sitting in? And if anybody's ever watched a show or, they're dojo members or anything, they know my answer, which is your next position is your best position. So again, I'm sitting here on the floor, which is very, very different than sitting in a chair or ottoman. I have no backrest. I'm on the floor right now. I'm sitting kind of in a diva pose. Sorry for the crotch shot. This is our dog Carmen over here. She's my co-host, invisible co-host. But I'm kind of sitting in a diva pose here, and I've switched from back and forth. Or sometimes I will switch. I'll do like a half lotus pose now for a while, and I'll move back and forth. And it takes a significant amount more of muscles, especially the deep posture muscles, to hold me upright when all I have to base off of is the floor. And I can even lean back like so, and I can kind of go to one side. I can rock. For those of you that makes you motion sickness, I'll stop that. But even that's a huge change than simply plopping your body into a chair or couch, because it's going to take on the shape of that chair or couch. The chair or couch is going to, like when you put a cast on a broken arm or leg, it's going to cast your body in different positions, as well as affect the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, and the other connective tissue, i.e. the myofascia, into being very kind of stiff and sinewy, rather than being nice and supple and adaptable, like a nice supple filet mignon should be, which is kind of originally our blueprint as humans, how we should be. So I think that covers about sitting and sitting and being stagnant, and standing and walking. You want to try to get those to a more 1-to-1 ratio. All right, now let's talk about exercise. How many times per week do you work out? William says 4. How long do you work out for? William says 75 minutes. So, knowing what we know that we've already gone over with William, I would suggest to William and anyone else in a similar situation is work on improving your breathing, your hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, and movement, so that you fully benefit from the 5 hours you spend working out per week. Because oftentimes good intentions of, hey, I'm going to exercise, to whether it be through yoga, weight training, Pilates, CrossFit, whatever, often good intentions lead to injuries, overtraining, or simply a crappy ROI, a return on investment, for the time and effort that you put in. So William and anyone else watching that's, like I said, in a similar boat, please don't let this happen to you. This always pains me to see people trying hard. They're giving it 110%, 200, 210%, and they're not getting the results they want, because they've been unfortunately led to believe, as a lot of societies do, they put exercise up on a pedestal and say that's the most important. In some cases, the one and only way that you can improve your health, fitness, and overall wellness is through exercise. And I will say to that, you know, that it's not. Exercise is important. It's part of the recipe, but it's not the entire recipe. And actually, without being, I always tell people, if you're not 80% or above in those other foundations of health, not to exercise, but definitely focus less on exercise and focus more on living better. And I think the reason that's often glossed over is because it's not sexy. It's not what we've been, I think, taught to believe. You know, you got to work harder, and the inspirational videos of guys and gals at the gym sweating, lifting the heavy weights and stuff. That stuff sells and it gets attention, especially when there's some like high beat music behind it. And I should probably produce one of me and my wife and some other ninjas and ninjettes as I'm thinking about this right now of breathing, hydrating, sleeping, eating, optimizing our stress, moving, and then doing a little bit of exercise afterwards. But I think all of the six prior foundations of health should be to like this, like high intensity, like inspirational music that they would usually have people working out to, and then at the very end, have just a little bit of exercise. And I hope that William and everyone else isn't taking me the wrong way. I love exercise. I love anatomy, biomechanics, kinesiology, all of that. I love it. I used to do amateur bodybuilding. I used to be at 5'8", 235 pounds off season, and then I would diet down to about 220, 225 for shows. I love exercise, but 13 plus years, so coming up on 14 actually, years of experience and working with a lot of people has taught me is that if you don't have the rest of your life, your lifestyle in order, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least that, again, you've addressed it about 80%, you are severely holding yourself back in terms of the results that you should be getting from the time and effort you put into doing your exercise. But I'd also be curious to know from William, well, I think I kind of have an idea, but I don't want to assume too much as far as, working out 4 times per week, 75 minutes each. That comes up to, if my math is right, 5 hours per week working out. And is that just to be more flexible? The weight training, is it to be stronger? Is the goal here overall strength? Is it for, and that's okay to say, certain vanity reasons, trying to be super ripped, this and that? Because a lot of times people will work out. I have a friend, we used to work out in high school and a little bit after high school. He's still working out the same way. And I've shown him, I said, hey, there's a lot of these ways that you can work out and drastically cut back your workout time. And a lot of things, I don't have time, I'm busy. And what I found is that if you simply want to be healthy, you want to look good naked, and you also want to have the biomarkers of a low to moderate level competitive athlete, which again is really, really good, then really you only need, and assuming you've addressed the other foundations of health and are 80% or above in those, you only need about 10 to 30 minutes of exercise per day. And 30 minutes is going towards the top of it. I would say high intensity, shorter duration workouts often prove to be more effective and efficient than low intensity, longer duration workouts. Now, granted, if you're training for a certain skill, like marathons, triathlons, or you're a volleyball player, practicing not only the strength and mobility, but you're also practicing a certain skill. Table tennis, I used to play, so that just came to mind. Certain things like that, you do need more time, because you're not just trying to be stronger or lose weight. You're trying to perfect a certain skill. That totally, especially if it's for enjoyment purposes, I totally get working out and exercising more. But I'd be curious, William, to know, what other than the flexibility and the strength, if there's other reasons of working out so much. Just because given the other answers, I have some concern, again, if William and I are working, one-on-one, which essentially I am speaking to him now, is that, 5 hours per week, given how you're breathing, your hydration, your sleep, your nutrition, your stress, and your movement are currently, that you're setting yourself up. Oh, and I saw his postural photos, that you are setting yourself up for injury, that you could be doing more harm than good. Or if the results you do get from the exercise, because by all means, I'm not saying stop, but they're nowhere near as good as you should be getting. All right. And I always want to make sure if someone's going to put time and effort into exercise, I mean, it's important that they like it. It's even more important if you don't like it, you want to get a good return on your investment for the time and energy you put in. Otherwise, it's really frustrating. And I don't blame people for, I don't want to exercise because I don't get that much out of it. Well, yeah, especially if you're chronically dehydrated, chronically sleep deprived, you're breathing up in your chest, neck, and shoulders and not in your diaphragm where you're supposed to be. You know, when's the last time you took a vacation from work? You're chronically stressed, all this stuff. Why are you wasting your time working out? You're going to improve by like 0.01% for spending 90, 75, or 90 minutes at the gym. The heck with that. Don't waste your time, you know? So anyways, sorry, I go off on little rants sometimes, but hopefully William and everybody else was able to pick some gems out of that. Let's see. How conducive is your environment? Things like work, home, peer group, etc., to you achieving your goals. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being ideal. And William says 1, which was unfortunate because I believe, a lot of people say you are what you eat. I like to take that one step further and say, well, you are what you eat eats, but really you are not only what you eat, but you are who you hang out with. You're what you read, you're what you watch, you're what you listen to, who and what you surround yourself with, and most importantly, what you consistently do. So that's why I think it's so important to surround yourself with people like those found inside the Optimize Self Dojo, is so that you have a good environment around you, a supportive environment. Let's see, what is your general mindset? Sorry, let me just make sure. Yep, that's good. What is your general mindset? And William says, enthusiastic, hesitant, some days ready to take on the world. Overall, I would say that, William, your energy and mindset sounds good, but I'm curious to know what is causing you to feel hesitant. Also, enthusiasm. We kind of touched upon this in the on the exercise part, but enthusiasm and high energy are good, but only if channeled correctly. So if you try as hard as you can at something, but you're going about it the wrong way, how much effort you give, unfortunately, doesn't matter if you're using the wrong strategy. And I think a strong work ethic and hard work in general is an honorable trait, but I always recommend working smart, then hard if need be. Doing so the other way around, switching that, well, it's just, how can I put this? Stupid. So a note to everybody: don't be stupid. But we're all guilty of that in some way, right? If we're not thinking the right way, if we haven't set up the proper plan or strategy, and we just go, we're going to try really hard, it doesn't matter how hard you try if you're doing the wrong things in the wrong order. All right. So that's my only little caveat to enthusiasm, high energy. Otherwise, sounds great. Let's see. Is there anything else that you feel, think, believe is contributing to holding you back from being your optimized self? William says lack of sleep due to child's social life became almost non-existent, which, my wife and I were not parents, but we can definitely sympathize, have many friends that are on their first or second, second kid. And I can definitely see that and feel for you. So, what to do about the sleep and the social life? Well, I would definitely suggest using the Optimize Self Habits program and the Optimize Self Journal to create a kind of sleep habit for you, your child, and anyone else in the household. Because sleep is one of those things, I speak from a lot of experience. I would say out of the 7 foundations of health on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best or optimized, sleep is the one for me that fluctuates the most. And here's the thing, if you leave what time to go to sleep up as an option, you're going to waste mental bandwidth going, well, I'll go to sleep here. Then I'll push it back a little bit later. And then maybe here and maybe there. The time you go to bed is going to be infrequent. The quality of your sleep is going to suffer for that. The time you wake up and how much energy you wake up is going to suffer. So here's the thing. I always tell people, one of the healthiest choices you can make is to stop making healthy choices, by which I mean, as quick as you can, take a healthy choice and make it into a habit. We're going to go to bed at this time. And if there has to be a fun thing you do, with your child or with the family to make it kind of a ritual or a habit, pre-bed ritual, habit, do that. But make sure everybody's in bed at a certain times. No excuses. And if you need to raise the stakes, I mean, that's part of what the Optimize Self Dojo accountability group is for. Accountability contracts are great, like websites like Stick with 2Ks, stick.com is good because you can actually put money, a significant amount of money, in escrow, and you can have like a third party that you check in with and say, yeah, I did this, or I'm doing this right now, here's proof. And if you don't do it, if you don't meet that money that you put in account will actually go, you can actually have it go to a charity, which works, but then people feel good about that. You can have it go to a person, which sometimes work, but really what works the most is you have it go towards an anti-charity. So maybe somebody that you would say, I would hate to have 1 cent of my money go to this group. Maybe it's, I don't know, the Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, or something like that. But if I don't go to bed consistently on this time and I don't check in with this person who's holding me accountable, make it something significant, like 5% of your annual income or something, boom, that goes to, I don't know, like I said, the Ku Klux Klan or something like that. I cannot tell you how much that increases success rates and consistency to people actually holding themselves accountable and, or the accountability contract, holding them accountable and doing what they say. So, but that's kind of on the extreme side of things. I would say first, get inside the dojo and check out the Optimize Self Habits program, and also use the Optimize Self Journal to help you build a new sleep habit. Let's see, what else did we not cover there? Oh, as far as the socializing part of it, again, that's another kind of built-in benefit of the Optimize Self Dojo. Is it's a great way to meet new and interesting people from all over the world. And the great thing is you share a common goal and mindset with them. And that is, trying to become the best version of yourself possible. So that way you can go out and help others do the same. And we also have, every Saturday, people are always talking, in the group. I post things daily. I'm in there, other dojo members, ninjas and ninjettes, they're in there. So we always look to, help each other out, hold each other accountable, support one another. Hey, I'm looking for this. Where can I find that? All of that, or here's what's in the arsenal. I have a question about that. If I'm awake, I'll answer it, but we have people from all over the world, so time zone differences. If I'm sleeping, I love to wake up and see, oh, someone asked this question, someone else answered it, and maybe it's the same way that I would answer it, or maybe it's slightly different. I'll say, yeah, good point, also check this out, type of thing. But also every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do live hangouts on video, which you're more than welcome to join. So that can be a great way to socialize. Ideally, it would be in person all the time, but it's just not realistic, again, given that the members are all over the world. But I would like to see that one day, do travel around and do some kind of in-person meetups. But for right now, it's online, and it's still a really fun way to interact and make friends. Let's see, who holds you accountable and supports you in your health, fitness, wellness endeavors? William says myself. When I know someone has to, when I know something has to be done, I'll get it done. Or maybe my partner. To which I would say, holding yourself accountable is good. And this is a common answer that I receive, and I used to think of as very honorable. There's something to say, well, I hold me accountable. It's on me. But over the years, my view on how I and others answer this question has changed. Now it's, I think relying solely on yourself. And I do hear, William, I want to say that I recognize also sometimes relying on a partner. I think that's even better. I'll get into that a little bit later. The more the merrier people that you're accountable to, the better. But relying solely on yourself and what you know best is like taking all your money and investing it into one stock simply because you like the look of their logo. It's just not a good idea. It's putting all your eggs in one basket. Instead, what I recommend now is to find like-minded people with the same or similar goals as you, and leverage off their collective time, knowledge, and experience. Going this route is exponentially more effective and efficient, and this is one of the founding principles of the Optimized Self Dojo. Is basically taking, yeah, as I say, the best of what healthcare has to offer, because there are some good things, taking the best of what self-care has to offer, which has some good things. Both healthcare, I think, and self-care are flawed, but if you take both of them together, add them both together, you get welfare. And I'm not talking about food stamps or anything. I'm talking about welfare as in community care, looking out for your fellow human, the person to the left and the right of you, your partner, your child, your mother, your brother, your friend, family member, coworker, cat, I guess, the postman, looking out for them. And I think that's what's missing in terms of healthcare and self-care. So yeah, definitely check out the dojo and leverage off the built-in accountability and support that's built into the group. And what I found, both from my own experience and reading lots of research on the topic, is the more people that you are accountable to, the more likely you will do what you know needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Because by being accountable to just you, if you don't do it, you're letting yourself down. And as I know, as many people will say, you're going to feel disappointed in yourself. You can get over that. Turn some good TV on, have something good to eat, whether it's healthy for you or not, and you'll feel better. Pick a video game, like you'll forget about that. So I think a lot of times people get pulled into the passion. I hold myself accountable for. Well, it's really easy to let yourself down. Trust me, I've done it many times. It's great if you have a partner, but what if you had not just a romantic partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or something, but what if you had 10 people you were that held you accountable, like Porky Pig trying to spit that out, that you were accountable to, right? You said, hey, I'm going to do this by this time. Guys, hold me to this. If I don't, let me have it. And you were accountable to 10 people. What about 100 people? What about 1,000 people? Now it starts getting more serious, because you're not just letting yourself down, you're letting many people down. And then on top of that, again, if you have to go this extreme route and you actually put your money where your mouth is, you say, if I don't have this done by this time, we got to make this hurt. Maybe whether it's through some, social media type of shame that you beforehand say, this is okay. If I don't do this thing, let this thing happen, or through some type of, this money goes from this account to this account, like we talked about earlier with stick.com. You can do that. But yeah, I think the more people that you're accountable to, the more likelihood you're actually going to, like I said, consistently do what needs to be done, even when you don't want to do it. All right. I think that's about. No, sorry, I got a couple more. Let's see. Do you know about the Optimize Self Dojo? William says, yes, I do, and I'm interested in joining. William, I think you'd be a perfect addition to the group, and I'm sure I speak for all the dojo members when I say that we would love to have you. So, look forward to having you inside and joining us for one of the upcoming live trainings, aka Hangouts. Like I said, they're every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you have any other questions that I can help answer and follow up on, please don't hesitate to contact me. All right. What else? Oh, there's two more. I was getting ready to say bye. Just a minute. What would you love to see in your inbox from OptimizeSelf.ninja? And William says, something positive and helpful. I'll take on board any help I can get until I achieve my goals. We talked about the live trainings. That'd be good. You said positive and helpful. Well, there's a lot of positive and helpful things. Something also you'd be interested inside the dojo is the I forgot the name of it, but the Catalyst of the Day videos that I put out, as well as the daily videos that I put out several years ago, but they're evergreen. There's still really good information. There's 440, I believe, of them total that I did back-to-back, day-to-day there. And when I say Catalyst of the Day, they're thoughts, quotes, ideals, questions, call to actions of the day. And they really actually came from the ideal from a client of mine that I worked with years ago, who said it was great working one-on-one. It would be great to hear, little short, easy to digestible bits of information. So all the videos are 30 seconds or less, really easy to get through. And actually, I started them back up this year, beginning actually, I think before January 1st, and those are actually 15 seconds or less. So they're really quick, easy to go through, and I think you'd enjoy those as well. Last question, have you shared OptimizeSelf.Ninja with a friend, family member, or someone you care about? William says no, but I promise I will. Yes, please tell your friends, family, coworkers, like I said, the cat, because with each person that joins the dojo, the collective knowledge and experience, and therefore value of the group, grows exponentially. So anyways, thank you very much, William, for taking the Optimize Self test. I want to acknowledge you for having the initiative to take the test and following up. I always tell people, you got to take responsibility for your own health. That's where healthcare starts, is with yourself. And people who ask for help, it's very easy to ask for help and then just kind of sit back and be passive. But again, I want to acknowledge you for having the initiative to take the test, for being a part of the process and stepping in the ring with me. Whether you join the dojo or not, it's been a pleasure, talking with you in this media, in this format. But I hope to have some one-on-one, at least video, face-to-face time in real time with you. Hopefully in an upcoming, like I said, the weekly live trainings that we do. And hear back from you again. All right. Anyways, if you found these answers or any others that I go through in the rest of the episode helpful, please like the video on YouTube. Also share it with, like I said, any friends, family members, anyone you know that you think they can benefit from this information. Share it with them on your favorite social media platform or via email. I know they would appreciate you thinking about them. I would appreciate you helping spread the word. And also, if you haven't already done so, go click the subscribe button over on youtube.com/OptimizeSelfNinja. That way you stay up to date with all the recent happenings and going on inside the dojo. All right. With that said, William, bid you adieu. I look forward to seeing you inside the next video or the next live training on inside the dojo, hopefully. All right. Until then, take care and be a good human. All right. So now we're going to move on to the second topic of the day, which is an email Ron sent in. Let me grab some water and we will continue on. Side note, if you have a job occupation that requires you to talk a lot, you definitely have to drink more water because you're expelling, not like spitting in a gross way, but just by talking, a lot of moisture escapes from your mouth. So that's why I drink so much. All right. Ron emails in. Hi, Justin. That's me in the middle. Actually, before I start this, sorry, premature email reading, let me bring up a photo that Ron sent in, which for privacy reasons, I blurred out the faces. Give me 1 second. There we go. Just so you can see what I'm seeing as I read this. Okay. Ron emails in, hi, Justin. That's me in the middle. Here we go. I'll put my cursor over his face there. That's me in the middle. I think you can see the shoulder issue that drove me to finding your site. I recently went to my chiropractor specifically about this, but he wasn't able to help. Tomorrow, I'll go to a physical therapist to see what they can do, but I think you might have the greatest answer. As you described some of the pain issues you had, it's now becoming a lifestyle issue for me. My personal situation is that I'm caring for my mother with dementia and the aid of caregivers, so my time is limited. I first learned about my shoulder back in 1988 when a friend of mine took me to a chiropractor, and he pointed out the differences in shoulders, being that I am right-handed, and then for some years was using a trackball, doing some graphic design work. Probably didn't help. Some years ago, I got a headset as the shoulder rest on phones were not good for me. I appreciate you taking the time and effort to bring the help to others and that you yourself have received. Looking forward to hearing from you, Ron. So Ron, thank you very much for writing in and your kind words. I I want to take just respond to via video because this is a great email. So yes, Ron, speaking of Ron, but anyone else watching, hope you can benefit from this too. If you too have a elevated or depressed shoulder, elevated would be Ron's right shoulder, the depressed one would be the left. So some people may say, call what we're looking at here an elevated shoulder, others may refer to it as a depressed shoulder. Doesn't really much matter. Obviously, elevated is higher, depressed is lower. Let's just call it a shoulder asymmetry, where Ron is basically wearing the right shoulder as an earring, thus part of the title here of today's show. And the other one, the left one, is drooping significantly down and lower. And yes, I would definitely agree with Ron. This is most certainly a symptom of his lifestyle. And Ron, like you said in your email, what really jumped out to me was the part when you said, being that I am right-handed and then for some years was using a trackball doing computer graphic design work probably didn't help. Some years ago, I got a headset as the shoulder rests on phones were not good for me. So yeah, I definitely mean practice makes permanent, at least semi-permanent, not perfect. And the number one truth that we subscribe to here on the Optimize Self show, which for many people have heard this time and time again that I've said, but Ron, if he clicked on the link that I sent him and jumped right to this timestamp, he might be hearing for the first time ever, is that the human body is a stimulus response organism that responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters the most, not your best intentions. So given the current state of health, fitness, and general being, that it's a result of a cumulative qualities of things like your breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, exercise, not to mention other factors like your environment and mindset, both of which are always influencing your pain, posture, and performance. I definitely think it's safe to say that yes, what we're seeing here in the photos, the disparity between the shoulders is very much a result of repetitively using a trackball, doing graphic design work, and using a shoulder rest for some time before transitioning over to a headset, as I'm sure many other things. Those are just the movements that added to this, repetitively assuming the same positions and move in the same ways. Again, your body's going to adapt to it. Whatever you ask it to do, it will do. So I tell people, be careful of how you ask your body to move or also not move, because it will adapt and it'll get good both at what you ask it to do, and it will get rid of what you don't ask it to do. So if you don't reach overhead very often, guess what? You're not going to be very good at reaching overhead because your body is very efficient. It's going to go, you don't need this movement? All right, we're going to shut that down. But then when the rare time comes up, I need to reach overhead, and you strain something, hurt yourself, that's wise because you haven't practiced it very often. But if you have practice, using a trackpad or a trackball, or answering the phone one side or doing something one-sided again and again and again, your body's going to get very, very good to that. And its shape, its alignment, its posture is going to definitely show that. So what are the next steps to take here for Ron? Well, I would definitely recommend you check out a video post I did, I believe it was a year, maybe it was 2 years ago, but it's still very good information. It's evergreen. I'll link to it in the show notes below, which will be under in the YouTube descriptions under mentioned links. And it's called Correcting Common Posture Deviations, Shoulder Elevation. All right. Then from there, sorry, I just realized I had the screen share on the whole time, but that's good, so we can get a good look. Even though we blurred out the faces, looks like a very lovely family and a very lovely house. Let me take that off. And so that's what I recommend, Ron, you start with first. I would love to give you more specific advice, that is unique to your lifestyle, but I only have what was in the email to go off of. So if I could ask you to help me a little bit more so I can help you, that would be great. And the way you can do that is by heading over to optimizeself.ninja, which you're probably already watching this on because I'll send you a link to. And right below the video player where this video is playing is a big red orange button that says click here to take the Optimize Self test. Go ahead, put your email in there, click that button, put your email in, and you'll be sent a link to the Optimize Self test. If for whatever reason it says, because you signed up with me from the Posture Guy email list, if it gives you any problems, just go to optimizeself.ninja/test, and I'll make sure to link that up in the email I'll send you to this episode. All right. And basically what the Optimize Self test is a self-assessment questionnaire that will help you kind of audit your current lifestyle. And there's also places in there for you to ask me questions, and then I will respond to you like I did William earlier in the episode. So if you look at the timestamps on YouTube, you can see where I address William's responses in the Optimize Self test, and then I could do the same or similar thing to your responses in an upcoming episode of the Optimize Self show. All right, so that would be the next step to take. Other than that, if you found this or any of the answers on the episode helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you would like the video on YouTube. Also, if you find this or any of the other answers I give in the episode helpful to maybe someone else please share it with them on your favorite social media platform or via email. I know they would appreciate you thinking about them. I would appreciate you helping, share the love and spread the word. And we both of our heroes. So, and last but certainly not least, subscribe over on youtube.com/optimizeselfninja. That way you can stay up to date with all the recent happenings and going on inside the Optimize Self ecosystem, for lack of a better term. And there is actually one more thing. And even though I said last thing before, if you go to optimizeself.ninja, below the video player and below where you click to take the Optimize Self test, you'll start to read about all the things that are included inside the Optimize Self Dojo. I definitely think you would benefit from everything inside. Granted, I'm biased because it's my group, but take a look and see what's included, and make up your own mind and see if everything that's included inside would be of value to you. If you have any questions about anything, or you think of something that's not included that you think, hey, this would be valuable to me, please share that with me, because I want to make it as valuable of a resource to as many people as possible. All right. Anyways, Ron, thank you very much for writing in your email. Appreciate your kind words. And I look forward to hearing back from you via the Optimize Self test, and hopefully seeing you someday soon in the Optimize Self Dojo. All right. Until then, take care and be a good human. All right. And we got one more topic of the day. Grab some water. So this is kind of the segment where I like to just share something either fun, kind of edutaining, something I'm working on behind the scenes, personal, add a little fun here. So this is something I'm kind of working on called the Optimize Self truths. And these are something that if you look back at other videos, I repeat often. And there's a reason for it. It's because it's very, very important. And definitely inside the dojo, I'm happy to say that people are starting to adopt, and that these, if you want to say quotes or sayings, people are going, yeah, I get that now. I understand the importance of it. So this is a work in progress. This is definitely not in, set in stone. But this is something I kind of want to create called the Optimize Self Truths, that for the show and for the dojo. And I actually got the idea off of a podcast that I subscribe to called Tech Douchebags, because I am self-admittedly a tech douchebag. Really, really funny podcast about technology and how we utilize it in our lives and stuff. If you want to check it out, I'll try to remember to link it up in the show notes below. trying to remember the host. I can't think of his name right now, but pretty funny. He has a 12-step program, almost kind of like, if you were like Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. Like there's a 12-step program. It's the same thing for tech douchebags. So this is, instead of like a 12-step program, this is kind of just truths. And again, some of them, this is a work in progress. If you guys have any that you would say, add this one, take this one out, or modify this one, I'm totally open to feedback. But I liked it on there, and I thought it would fit well with the show and the dojo. So let me get down. I'll just read them as a list, and we'll go from there. So number one, and I'm sure you already know what I'm going to say for the first one. This one will definitely be in there. And that is, and I think this is such an important lesson. I always tell people, just one thing you take away. One thing that you take away from each show. Please, for the love of God, let it be this thing. And that is, you guys could probably recite it now because you've heard me say it time and time again. The human body is a stimulus response organism that responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters the most, not your best intentions. And before we go on to the next one, the reason I think that one is so important is because time and time again, I see people putting on the single factor focused monocle and just looking at just exercise or just nutrition or just this one thing or just that one thing, which in and of themselves are important. But then people try to fix their health and fitness and wellness problems with just that one thing. And it's like, you got to zoom out and put on the what I call the multi-pronged, diversified, goggles that give you a full spectrum, 360-degree, view, or at least 180. No, I will say 360. It spins your head around. You can see everything, and it takes in consideration your entire lifestyle, because I think it's unfair to try to treat health, fitness, wellness issues in a bubble. We're going to fix you just by your diet. We're going to fix you just by exercise. Quite frankly, I always tell people, if a health professional tells you you're going to fix you just with chiropractic work, just with PT, just with posture alignment, just with this, yeah, that's a red flag. Run the other way. I always try to align myself. Like, I know some great chiropractors, and they're the ones that say, hey, we can help mobilize this. But then it's up to you to go home and do these exercises or change your diet or drink more water so that the changes we make here at the office stick and that you can live a healthier lifestyle. When I hear that, I'm like, all right, you're on to something. You know your limits as a professional. Same thing as nutritionists and other people go. Nutrition is not the fix for everything. Same as posture alignment, exercise is not the fix for everything. They all have their place. It's learning how they work together. So that's why I repeatedly say the whole human body stimulus response organism thing that I won't say again, because I'm sure people are sick of me saying it. But that's good. I want you to repeating it in your sleep. Then I'll know I've done my job. All right. The other ones will go faster. You have to take responsibility for your health and be a part of the process. Regularly audit, so that's the next one. Regularly audit your lifestyle by testing, measuring, and tracking, basically practicing self-quantification. Be aware of yourself, others, and your environment. Combine the best of what healthcare and self-care has to offer to provide welfare, as in community care, to the rest of the world. Be a good human. Leverage off other people's knowledge, experience, and time. Regularly question commonly accepted assumptions and beliefs. Choose yourself first so that you can be of service to those around you. Realize that the key to success is usually a combination lock, where the combination is different for every person. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Obviously, I think that's a Gandhi quote, but it's a good one. Everyone is a sensei in their own right. I wanted to pause and talk a little bit more on that one, but I know we're running long as usual on the show. Surprise, surprise. That last one, though, everyone is a sensei in their own right. Part of the reason I have not gone out and had certain people in nutrition or posture, all these other people that I know that are very well-to-do in each of those areas of health on the show, is because I think to just put health expert after health expert in front of you, one, that's been done to death before, and I'm not saying it's bad, but I think that in order to move the needle in terms of worldwide health and self-care, aka when you put the two together, welfare. We need to stop being reliant on health experts and professionals or gurus or senseis. Yes, I don't want you dependent on me. I love it when I talk to people who don't need me as much as they once used to, weeks, months, years, decades ago. I love that, because that means I've done my job and they've done their job. We met, we worked together, we were successful. If someone continually needs me again and again and again, either I'm not doing something right, they're not doing something right, or both not doing something right. And I hate when that happens. So I want the Optimized Self Dojo, as well as the show, but especially the dojo, to be a safe platform in which people can express their thoughts, their opinions, their knowledge, and especially their experience on topics, definitely health, fitness, and wellness, but other things as well in terms of life, where they can share, and by doing so, teach others. Because a lot of people think that you have to have a degree, you have to have some certification, you have to have a lot of experience to teach something. And so that's why I think a lot of times people become disenfranchised with their own internal problem solving, critical thinking that's innate in all of us. And so we go, I hate it when people tell me, well, why'd you do this? Well, Justin, you said to. And again, it's like that old, well, if I told you to jump off a bridge, would you? Well, no, that's silly. Okay, well, don't eat this or do this just simply because I said. By all means, cross-reference me, ask me questions, put it through, do your own due diligence, put it through your own common sense filter, and then make a decision. I'm not here to tell you or anyone else how you should live. I'm assuming everyone watching, unless you're a kid, you're a grown-ass adult, and if you are a kid watching, I apologize for the cursing. Go get a parent. But I hope you get what I'm getting at, is that we're all responsible for our own. But I don't want anyone looking to me, or any health professional for that matter, as just a source of information that they say do this, so I do this. Unfortunately, and I think you could argue it's a generational thing, but doctors, a lot of times I would get people, why'd you do this thing? Well, my doctor said so. Okay, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just asking why. I don't know. Don't you think that would be some useful information to have? Like, my doctor said I have arthritis. Okay, what did they say the cause was it? Well, they didn't. Wouldn't you think that's some important information to have right now? Seems how we're trying to figure out how to get rid of it. Like, what can you do? And so please be a part of the process, play an active role in your healthcare, and realize that you don't have to be reliant on professionals. You are your own professional. We're like I said, everyone is a sensei in their own right. That's why I love the dojo members, because yes, I've built a community, a platform, and in it put the most important things that I've learned over my 13 plus years of being in the making bodies better world. That's great. And I hope everyone knows too that I'm benefiting from, I'm learning from them just as much, if not more, from their collective knowledge and experience. Even though maybe the except of one of the newer ones, I don't believe any of them are in the health, fitness, wellness, let's call it making bodies better world. I'm learning from each of them, because they're different people from different walks of life, different age groups, and all that. So I just hope everyone watching knows that I believe that everyone in the world, we should all be students, and we're also teachers. So just don't forget that. Anyways, that's about it for the truths, the Optimized Self truths. Also, I'm working on some updated infographics, charts, illustrations, and videos to summarize the Optimized Self system concept, i.e., why it is vital that we treat the body as an entire unit through lifestyle design, and not just focus on individual factors. So stay tuned for more on that. And I think that about covers it. I'll grab some water. We'll close this out. All right. So as always, thank you for watching. If you haven't already done so, please head on over to optimizeself.ninja/test to take the Optimize Self test, or you can always go to Optimize Self Ninja and just click that big red orange button. To take the test as well. That way I can answer what questions you have for me and help kind of go over, and evaluate your lifestyle to see what you can modify and change here and there to optimize your life and help you basically get you from where you currently are to where you want to be. And if you've already done that, maybe you have some follow-up questions or kind of a more general question about something you're interested in, you can always message, text, email me. Well, email me, but now you can text and leave me a voicemail at 619-800-2459. That would be great. And what else? As always, if you found any of the answers inside today's episode helpful and beneficial to you, please like the video over on YouTube. Also, if you think it could be beneficial to anyone else please share with them on your favorite social media platform or via email. I know they would appreciate it. I would as well. And you'll be both of our heroes. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button over on the Optimize Self Ninja YouTube channel. That way you stay up to date with all the recent happenings and going on. And for whatever reason, if the one-on-one sessions, the retainers, or being a part of the Optimize Self Dojo just doesn't, neither of those tickle your fancy, but you like the show, you want to support the show, you can do so over at optimizeself.ninja/support, which will basically take you right now to a PayPal page where you could donate as little or as much as you want. It could be a one-time payment or a recurring monthly payment, and that'll all go towards basically funding the show, keeping that free for everybody, and I really, really appreciate it. I do have plans later on to expand it from just a donation PayPal to being able to support the show through some Amazon shopping and maybe later on creating some fun merchandise. So also stay tuned for that. All right. I think that about does it. And I look forward to seeing y'all. That was my inner Texan coming out. I'm not Texas. I just visit family there often. But I look forward to seeing y'all inside the next video. Until then, take care and be a good human.